the movie Sleeper from 1973. And the logline on this movie is a nerdish store owner is revived out of cryostasis into a future world to fight an oppressive government. So obviously written and directed by Woody Allen and starring Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. So this was definitely the first Woody Allen movie I saw. I was a young teenager. My dad, who was a big Woody Allen fan, showed me this movie first and was like, you should watch this. And I think it's just because of my age. When you're 12 and 13, a movie like Annie Hall or Manhattan isn't, you're not going to get it. But this stuff, which was very much slapstick, owes a lot to silent film comedies, very
Hmm.
zany, very off the wall, and goofy and silly. I think that was the right into kind of introduction to Woody Allen's filmography. So this is what I first knew him as, like as someone who is very big in physical comedy. Like I said, this movie I think is an homage to like the Marx Brothers, which were famous 30s and 40s comedians who I really loved their movies too before even coming to this film Sleeper. Even the score of this movie is a very zany sort of silent film-esque score, which is definitely, you can tell what the homage is. But I do find this movie, the concept is funny of a guy waking up in the future when he was probably supposed to be like in for a routine medical procedure or something. I think he does a good job in as the main character of this sort of guy who you don't expect to be leading a revolution, or like the last person you'd probably want to be defrosted in terms of dealing with a future, and has some, honestly, it's like some very funny gags in it. I think one of his funniest jokes he's ever done is this robot dog that just sort of like walks around like, I am Rags, I am robot dog. I just literally like laugh at that thing harder than anything else that he's done in his filmography. But there are other things this movie touches on too. Like a lot of his movies, especially early on, these zanier ones, like Bananas is another movie that around the same time that I saw right after this one, that do have a lot of political messages in it, even though he kind of backs away from that a little bit. But he's making a lot of political statements, making fun of revolutions and how really they're kind of pointless. He sort of wags his finger at them a little bit, and jokes on the left wing and communists and things like that. He even gets in some hate LA joke in there too, which is pretty funny. So there's still the tropes that are in there, but I don't know, I just was able to, as a young teenager, kind of connect to this movie and find it really funny. So that was my first introduction to Woody Allen. Before we get more into it, when did you first stumble upon this film?
Yeah, I'd never seen it. So his
Oh,
like
cool.
early block of these sort of zany comedies, I'd never seen them. So I've known him as sort of, the relationship New York movie director. So this was kind of a new thing for me to experience his like zany, out and out comedy sort of movies. And it was really fun, honestly. Like, first of all, like what they did on a low budget, which you can sort of tell in the beginning, but then I think you kind of surrender to, even though the movie is zany, but you are transported
Hmm.
to wherever this is happening. And I think that's pretty cool. And even some of the futuristic things that they have, like it's funny, but there's something kind of deep and even real behind them. Like that the fact that you would go in like a chamber that'll give you orgasms, like
Oh,
that's pretty amazing and hilarious, I think, at the same time. And a lot of the robot stuff, like you mentioned, like him masquerading as a robot, I thought that was really hilarious and funny. And what these people are interested in this futuristic life, like it has a lot of commentary on kind of the materialism of people, right? Like how
hmm.
materialistic people have gotten, and human connection, human relationship, and even human pleasure is all instant. Like he's
Right.
making those commentaries right away, right? And it's like super funny. Also, it's sort of funny and odd for me to see him be so zany and do all this physical comedy, because I've primarily known him as like an older person and
Mm.
40s onwards, I guess. Even in the movies that he's in, he's not usually like jumping around and falling about. So that was kind of fun to see all of that. And then, of course, Dan Keaton holds their own totally. Their chemistry is great right off the bat. So that was really fun. Yeah, I guess what I would say is that it's a fun movie. And like I was saying earlier, it has a lot on his mind. Like it's not just a movie about nothing. And yes, he's making fun of the leftists and communists. He always does that.
I
Anybody's
know.
on like the extreme sides. But he's also at the same time making fun of authorities and the fact that, okay, you have to go against them. And I think it's interesting to me that you gravitate towards that one message only, versus to me, it's he makes fun of everybody, which is what I love actually, because I think we live in a time where only make fun of one side. You can't make fun of the other side. So I love that he makes fun of everybody. Nobody is spared.
there's a certain sort of like liberal boomer point of view that he has that is definitely irritating to me a little bit in terms of his political messages. But I think that's not the point necessarily of the movie. But to what you were saying, there is a lot of things going on here. I mean, I think actually
Hmm.
his earlier works sort of is a lot of sort of like frat boy humor in the sense of you're doing dumb, silly things, but you're still in college and there's, like you are smarter than this, but you don't care. You just want to do something fun and silly. But there is some intellectual stuff in there too, which I also kind of gravitate towards that type of humor too, like
Yeah.
a Monty Python, which is really goofy and silly, but they're very intelligent and they know exactly kind of what they're doing and the things
Yeah.
they're saying. And I think Woody Allen, especially in this beginning part of his career with this movie Sleeper, exemplifies that for sure. And they're able to make comments, which is another reason why I think this works really well as a sci-fi movie. That's a genre where you set in the future, it's really about the present. And he's doing a
Right.
lot of digs at, early 70s sort of pop culture and ideologies and things. And it's just fun to see that and dated in a way because we're not in the early 70s anymore, obviously. So it's interesting to see what was sort of bothering them at the time. But I think it makes for an interesting movie that is a fun kind of time capsule, but then also in a way of the larger themes about fighting against authority, but then also like kind of being skeptical of revolutions and revolutionary leaders is, can be timeless in a sense. But
Exactly. Because
it's
both those statements are true to me. They always will be.
it depends. I think it
Yeah.
depends. But it is a fun. I think I hadn't seen it honestly since I was a teenager. It's not like I
Mm.
rewatched this movie a lot, but I saw it a couple times when my dad introduced me to it and liked it back then. And I still think for me it holds up. Like I don't get irritated by Woody Allen the way that I do in some of his more quote unquote mature films. And I think it works. Like he's a good physical comedian. Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.